Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany, a podcast focused on holistic health, nutrition, biohacking, and more. I'm your host, Brittany Ford, registered holistic nutritionist and self-proclaimed biohacker. During the last 10 years, I've focused on healing my gut and hormonal issues through lifestyle changes, nutrition, and of course, biohacks. And now I teach others to do the same. I'm so excited you're joining me today, so let's dive right in. Well, welcome to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. I am so excited to have you here joining me. And today is a really cool episode. I have Matt Chandler with me, who is the founder and CEO of AlcHempist, which is a hemp oil brand and business. And this is really cool because this is a topic in terms of like CBD and THC and hemp in general that I have not explored on this podcast yet. And to be honest, like I actually don't know too much about it. It's a very new thing to me. I've tried different CBD oils and haven't really had too much success with them. It's kind of like one of those biohacks that a company will send me some, and I'll use it for a little bit and then forget about it because I don't really get any real benefit or don't really see any benefit. So I'm really excited to just like dive into actually how it works and the research behind it, and if we should all be taking it, and kind of the benefits and the results and everything like that. So Matt Chandler, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brittany. I really appreciate it. Excited to be on here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you joining us. So first and foremost, like, why did you start a CBD company? Like, what was the vision behind it? And like, really, what's the story?
Yeah, that's a great question. My journey into, I'd say, hemp and cannabis started when I was age 26, which was about 8 years ago. And so I basically at the time was in real estate. I had 2 small kids. Like a lot of people, I was just fell in the trap of working 80 to 100 hours a week. I was constantly stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found it really, really hard to shut off at night from work and things and connect with my kids. And so my ex-partner at the time had sleep problems, and she was looking marijuana to work for her in the past. And so she was interested in it. And so I was like, all right, let's go ahead and give this a try. So we gave it a try, and she basically it helped her sleep dramatically. And she was dealing with some autoimmune and some different things at that time, and had poor sleep. And for me, I noticed like I just was able to kind of be in the moment and shut my mind off a little bit. And so that's kind of my first, I would say, venture into cannabis. And it kind of snowballed into hemp about a year later, just because it made such a profound impact in my life. I was very interested in it, started researching about, the effects of cannabis and what it's doing inside the body. And one thing that really struck me that I feel like a huge benefit that cannabis isn't talked about a lot. And when I say cannabis, I'm talking about hemp, marijuana. Those are all part of the cannabis plant. And we can kind of go on that later about, the differences there. But I knew from the research and stuff that I had seen, as well as from my own experience, that I was starting to make changes in my life for the better. I started, I would say it helped me put a clear lens on for me to look at some different situations and lifestyle habits I had in my life. And I could pinpoint from when I started using cannabis, it wasn't like right away, but I would say probably like 3 to 6 months later, I started really, really digging into eating healthier and got into, eating whole foods and different things like that. I also kind of noticed and did an analysis and realized, man, I'm spending 90 to 95% of my time indoors in front of a desk and really not enjoying life or going out there and having fun. And so I basically switched that up and incorporated a lot more fun in my life, and got outside a lot more. And I just started seeing these incremental, I would say, improvements in my life. And I relate that back to cannabis. And, now looking back at it, I look at, looking at the science, it has a large effect on the nervous system in people's body. And it kind of lets them, what I've seen, and this is just, my experience, kind of take a breath or a pause, because I feel like so many of us are in fight or flight kind of chronically. And it kind of helps you set that reset button to where you're like, can take a breath and breathe and be like, okay, this is what's going on in my life, and which directions do I want to keep going and pushing on, or which ones do I need to let go and they're not serving me as well. And it was really able to help me do that, and I think kind of also help open people's minds, just the other parts of their life, right? That their lifestyle and their habits. So that was really the passion. So like I said, I got into hemp about a year later, and moved up here to Colorado. I was involved in almost every part of the process of making the plant. So I've gained a lot of knowledge over the last 5 or 6 years, and got to see it do amazing things, and got to see what's working for people and what's not working for people, and who, cannabis is better for and what types. And so I got a lot of real life experience and seen a lot of, changing people's lives. And so it's exciting to be a part of it. Yeah. And this industry has been a wild ride. It's been a crazy industry, but it's been very good to me. And I'm just happy to be here and to offer some amazing products for people to be able to try it as well. And one thing about our company now, I think that's changed because like I said, I've been about 5 or 6 years. I was a part of a brand, and we ended up selling about 3 or 4 years ago. And the reason I started this new brand is because I've seen over my years just how much the difference it makes in the quality of the CBD products. And not just saying quality of the CBD itself, but it's really about using the entire plant, right? And like taking an holistic view of the plant, because there's so many amazing, great compounds that are beneficial for our health in that plant. Not just CBD, not just THC, but other minor cannabinoids, other terpenes, which are basically found in all plants, and help a lot with the synergy of the plant working inside our bodies, along with all the other various compounds that the plant has that are amazing. And so I really wanted to put the focus on helping educate and providing products that are very well rounded in the holistic part of the plant. So one thing we're doing is really trying to keep them very raw and very, 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 very clean. And farming is huge for us as well. So that's a little long answer, but hope that helps.
Yeah, yeah. No, it definitely does. So for cannabis, oh my gosh, I can never say this word, cannabinoids,
Okay.
and
Cannabinoids.
yeah, and how they work in the body.
Hmm.
Um, I was reading on your website, and now we're seeing like that there's so many more than just CBD. There's
Hmm.
CBN, CBC, and CBG. So can you like explain the differences between this and like how this impacts the body?
Sure. So cannabinoids in general are very, very similar. Their molecular structure, so they have very similar makeups, right? There's usually just something very small or tiny that changes it from, like, let's say, CBD to CBN, or CBD to THC. So they're very closely related. And in general, cannabis, and this is what I love about this plant, right? Um, has produces these things called cannabinoids, which we know as CBD or THC. Well, our body has an endocannabinoid system. It was mainly found like 1992, 1993, researchers started discovering it. It really wasn't taught in med school, but that's changing, and it actually is now. And what they're finding is that this endocannabinoid system that we have inside our bodies is like a super regulator of our immune system and our nervous system. And so it
Mm,
plays huge roles as far as bringing homeostasis and balance back to our body. And I look at it as a holistic approach. Is, when we have something imbalanced in our body, like our nervous system's not working right, maybe we're in flight or flight too long and haven't, calmed down and got to integrate it, and it's causing stress and inflammation and different things. I look at it like, if we can get the system back to normal and balanced, then it can heal itself, right? Our bodies are
mhm,
innately tuned and can heal themselves. And so, with the endocannabinoid system, I like to point out we all produce our own cannabinoids internally. There's two of them actually. One is called 2-AG, and one's anandamide. And those fill the different receptor sites in our body on our endocannabinoid system. And I want to tell you too, it's cool. The receptor sites are found all over our body. So it's crazy. They're like basically all through our nervous system, through our brain, all through our different organs. And they're on every single one of our immune cells as well. So they're very
mm,
important. And I find that really kind of just fascinating that, we have these receptor sites that not only go from our nervous system, but also to our organs. So it's like a big communicator that ties together our nervous and our immune system, basically. Right. So that's why it's so important. And like I said, we produce these internal cannabinoids. But a lot of time, like if anything, with diet, stress, and exercise, if they're not done properly and you're not able to handle stress right, you stop producing enough cannabinoids internally. And really, the older you get is when we can talk about that later, is the best population that CBD and cannabis seems to work for and has a lower risk. But that's just because our systems are not producing as much internal cannabinoids. So when we supplement with a plant that actually has these cannabinoids, the only plant really that are, I say that are is concentrated with these cannabinoids that bind and work perfectly within our body, I think that's awesome. You know what I mean? I think it's a perfect fit. And it's
Hmm.
not like a cure all. And I tell people that, right? It's not a cure all at all. It's something that you can give your body amazing tools for the system that's already built inside your body, that when it has the proper ingredients and the tools to be able to heal, it will start to begin to heal itself, right? And I think you kind of probably follow along those same lines with holistic health and what you're preaching as well, as taking care of your lifestyle and lowering your stress and all that kind of stuff is huge, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I actually saw on your website that you have a image of the human body and where all the receptors are.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was so interesting because you kind of take CBD oil or use cannabis in different ways, and you can have a body high and you can have a more of a mind high, or you can chill out, and like these different kind of responses to it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see it kind of like actually how is received on the body, that's like very, very interesting. And I noticed there's actually a few receptors on in the reproductive organs for like women and men.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I talk about a lot for myself is, and with my clients, is like hormonal health, especially for women.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if you have seen this in research or have any experience, but are there receptor sites on reproductive parts for women? And if there are, like what does that really mean for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the fact, and this is from my experience and knowledge, they're there because they're a central part of balancing that system, right?
Mm,
And because they're connected in the reproductive organs, but as well as your nervous system and your spine and your brain and stuff, it's kind of shoots its signals right back and forth, to kind of like, is this area healthy? And if it's not, I think our bodies are naturally designed when something's not going right to give us a response lovingly. And that's, it might for us become in the form of like a symptom of no sleep or anxiety or whatever, right?
mm,
But it's really like it's saying, hey, something's out of balance right here, we need to address it, right? And so I feel that the reason those receptors are there, is that when they're being fulfilled and they're in balance and harmony, it's sending signals to the brain that we're good in that area, right? Where if there is an issue, it's kind of sending them different signals to the brain, right? Or it might produce symptoms to kind of alert us to, we need to look at something or maybe solve the problem. So I will say that I don't think there is the research right now with cannabis and hemp, and that's one of the main issues, is because of the legalities. There's been very little research, and so
mm,
I'm not one of those people that are like, "Hey, look at these research, and now it does all this." It's when you really look at the research, it's very early on, right?
mm-hmm,
They don't know a lot of things in
mm-hmm,
this plant. They just know that people are getting amazing results, and now with the legalities starting to loosen up and hopefully being federally legal in the U.S., we're going to be open up to a lot more research that we're going to be able to do to be able to answer some of these questions, like specifically, how does it have to do with reproductive health, right, in men and women?
mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm,
I think there's a lot of questions that I'm not going to stand up here and say one way or the other, because there's not enough, honestly, research and science out there to back that up. I can just
mm-hmm,
say they're all over the body and that they're heavily tied to that immune and nervous system, and they're basically like the bridge between, I would say, your brain and your body and your organs. You know what I mean? Because you have these receptor sites all over, and so they kind of send signals and stuff back and forth. And I think, like I said, overall, our bodies are genius and crazily detailed and amazing. And so, we have this innate ability to heal ourselves, right? It's really giving ourselves that proper environment to be able to do so. And so I'm hopeful in the next year or two that I'll be able to answer those questions a lot more with some research, but I don't feel like right now there's enough good ones on the reproductive health,
mm-hmm.
just personally.
I want to pause this episode briefly to talk to you about emphies. So, if you've been following me for a while now, you know that this is something that I have really been pouring myself into to develop for you. Emphies are healthier underwear for women made by women. They protect against EMF, radiation, and bacteria. And they do that through the type of fabric that I'm using. I've started going to sewing classes and pattern making private lessons in order to make sure that these are very modern, comfy, and cute, and not granny panties, unlike the couple of options on the market right now. So this is super important. The underwear protects the female reproductive parts, specifically the ovaries, from all of the radiation that's around us. So in our car, from Bluetooth, from our phone, from computers, from Wi-Fi, all sorts of things. And this matters, right? Like we're learning more and more about how our environment impacts our health, and EMF is tough and radiation is tough because we actually can't see it. So it's kind of one of those things that we just don't necessarily think about because we can't like visually see it on a day-to-day basis, but that does not mean it's not impacting our health. And the science backs this up now. There are countless studies on this, on how EMF can impact fertility, ovulation, pregnancy, also like cancer and mitochondrial health. The ovaries are actually the most dense organ in the body that has mitochondria in it. They have 100,000 mitochondria per cell in the ovaries, like per cell. That is insane. And so we really want to make sure that those little mitochondria are doing their best, are functioning at their best. And we want to block any EMF, any radiation from impacting how they function, because I want women to have healthy cycles and healthy hormones and healthy pregnancy and fertility, and not have further, much more serious complications in the future. So, this underwear helps you get there like one step closer. And so that's exactly why I developed it. And so pre-orders are coming this summer. I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and it has been a lot of fun in the months that I have been developing them. So if you're interested in getting on the waitlist can be found at biohackingbrittany.com/emphies. That's EMFIES. Super easy. Or you can just go to the link in my Instagram bio. You can just sign up right through there as well. So definitely get on that wait list. It's growing pretty quickly. And everyone on the wait list will have early access to pre-orders, which is super important because it's going to be quite a limited quantity to start, I think. So get on the wait list. And yeah, if you have any further feedback, I'm always open to hear what you think and what you're looking for, even product wise. Like, yeah, and a bunch of you have already asked me if I'm going to be creating things for children or for men, which is very interesting. But I think we're going to focus just on the females for now. So get on the wait list, and I look forward to dropping these very soon.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like I think we have a long way to go for a lot of these new products that are coming out. Um, and this is such a new field as well that it totally makes sense that we don't know the full effects. And like you said, like at least things are loosening up a bit, and we're going to be able to do more research so we can get results. Just a question I was thinking of now. So it's so interesting that we have this plant hemp, and it corresponds to this
Yeah.
system in our body. Like, are there other plants that also have cannabinoids in them,
Cannabinoids, yes.
or is it just hemp? And like, yeah.
No, that's a great question. There are actually found in some other plants too.
Okay.
Copaiba is one too that will stimulate your cannabinoid receptors inside your body. The thing is, there's not a plant in the world that is concentrated in these cannabinoids as hemp and cannabis. Like it is by far the most concentrated plant, right? And I think that, from what I understand, most of the pharmaceuticals are derived off like molecules or compounds that are found in plants in nature, right? And they've kind of
Mm-hmm.
concentrated them for a certain specific reason or whatever they're trying to achieve, right? And so, like for copaiba and some of the other plants that have, lower cannabinoids, probably why you don't see them on the market as much is because, it's very small to get the same effect as what you would in cannabis, right? And now that cannabis has picked up popularity, cost have came down, and it's made it more affordable to get a good dose of these cannabinoids, right, for your body without, I think if we went to copaiba, it would take a lot more, and they're not just set up as much, right? So, but
Mm-hmm.
there are other plants that do contain cannabinoids that will respond to our receptor sites in our body, but none of them are profound as cannabis.
Mm-hmm. I just find it so fascinating that there's this plant that responds to our body,
Yeah,
and the plant that is the most potent is one that was illegal and is still illegal in many, many places and was scrutinized for using for so many years. Like, I just like my mind just doesn't understand. I feel like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle here of
I
like
know.
why why was it so banned for so long when if you just look in the human body we have receptors for the molecules that are in that very plant. Like we don't
I know.
have that with other plants like cocaine or other drugs, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
like that. So it's just mind-boggling that like I mean at least we're moving forward from that. And
Yeah, exactly.
you know
That's a good thing.
yeah, and it's becoming much more chill and accepted and like all of these different things. So it's just very
Agreed.
interesting when we look back on history. Anyway,
No, I find
um,
that as well,
yeah.
and I would like to point out too that that is one of the major reasons why I got into cannabis too, right? Because I was saying I'm from Oklahoma and in the middle United States in the Bible Belt, and cannabis we were taught was the devil's lettuce, right?
Mm,
People would prefer in high school that you go out drinking with friends and to ever smoke a joint or ever take a hit of cannabis. Like that was
hmm.
just the worst thing you could almost do, right? Out of all the
Yeah.
drugs, which is just nuts from what we know now, right? And I just feel like, so I grew up around that stigma. In fact, when I started using cannabis and this I was younger, it was highly illegal in Oklahoma too. So it was a big decision that like, all right, we tried a lot of other things for sleeping and to works, but it's not working. So it was a big risk for us to try it because it was actually illegal at the time.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's now I'm so passionate, like, cause I've grew up around that stigma and I had the natural tendencies to, to fight it. Right. And I want people to know that, there is a big stigma around and it's changing. And if you're, especially that older generation that really grew up with like the brain on
Hmm.
drugs and,
Hmm.
like all that kind of stuff that the commercials, the dare commercials they used to do and everything on TV. I think that sometimes they're hesitant because they're like, oh no, I've heard this was bad. And really for the older population, that is by far from the research I've seen is the biggest potential benefits. Right. And I
Hmm.
kind of mentioned that earlier, is just when we're young, if our system's healthy and working, we're able to deal with stress and things a little bit easier as we're younger and growing up versus when we get older and have more stressors piled on top and more things and kids and stuff like that. It's when it really starts to slow down our endocannabinoid system, and that's where hemp and cannabis I've seen just make miraculous changes in people's life like overnight. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's I agree. I'm big on the stigma and I want people to encourage it. Like, I know that was out there and it's hard, especially people that were tied down in religion and stuff like that around it, which was
Hmm.
misused. And I was part of that, getting taught that same thing. You gotta, if it's something that's leading to you and calling for you, it is definitely a magical plant when done right. And it's not the whole, now with the CBD and hemp, it's not just like getting high, right? Like it's
Hmm.
with the CBD product and taking a full spectrum product, it's more relaxing and focused, right? It's not I'm out of it and I'm high. If you took enough of the THC, like from a dispensary or something, then I'm sure you would get there, right? But for our products, and there's a lot of safe products out there that are, very, very, they don't, they're very low risk, I would say, right? But have a potential
Yeah.
for a very, very high benefit for someone.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm really proud and happy that the stigma is um, it's just becoming better. Like it's definitely not fully gone, but it will, I think it will be in, 10, 20 years, especially as like millennials and younger folk kind of get older. And um, yeah, and I don't know where I learned this, but I was watching, it might have been a Netflix documentary, and it was talking about the history of cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was saying how even the word marijuana is like associated and tied with like the history of the plant, and like not in a good way, and in
Yeah.
terms of like racial history and racism and like all of these things. And this word kind of started getting used in order to create stigma and kind of
Mm-hmm.
put people down. And so the very PC word to say, and the correct word now is cannabis. And ever since I learned that, I was like just mind blown at the history of this plant.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and I, again, like I'm happy we're moving past that, but it's one of the most fascinating histories of plants that I think we have today.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And it's been used for thousands of years. I think they've dated it back, I think it's 5000 BC,
Yeah.
that the Chinese were using medicinal cannabis. And it was a big part of their routine, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
of having to helping to heal people. And so, yeah, there's other parts around the world where cannabis has been used for, thousands of years. And it's an amazing plant. Like I said, it's a very unique plant that has cannabinoids that bind specifically with our body in times of need. So it's like really
Hmm.
timely and I feel like divine in a way too, right
Mm.
now as well. But yeah, it's an amazing plant. And it is sad that after so many thousands of years, it being beneficial to people, that it got caught up in political things. And I believe it was, a lot has to do with, it's all money, right? Like
Hmm.
with other, hemp, for instance, is a could be, and I think will be, an amazing industrial crop, right? For building materials and things, right? There's so many different uses for it, right? And if we look at it, like, to give you some people perspective, like we all know a tree takes forever to grow, like a new tree, right? Where
Hmm.
hemp grows up to, industrial 10, 15, 20 foot tall. And they're huge stalks, and they provide a lot of building material, and they grow within like a 4 or 5 month cycle. And they grow
Wow.
very easily, right? And then another big thing too is, like, I think it was something, and I don't want to get the exact quote or the wrong, but I think it was like 70 to 80% less water that we have to use to water hemp versus like cotton and other,
Yeah.
crops we're using, right? And so we're using more water. These other crops are not necessarily making sense, or the wood industries and stuff. But I feel like right now they have the strongholds in Washington and rules, and it's made it slower. On top of just the fact that, like the wood industry's been around forever, and so they've developed an entire kind of system to be able to, create all types of building materials out of wood, right? And those
Hmm.
systems don't just switch over to hemp right away, right? So it takes some groundwork and some time for some, entrepreneurs and people to get in there and build solutions for hemp. And that's happening. It's been happening for like 3 to 5 years, but it's a slow process. Like the wood thing didn't, the wood industry didn't pop up overnight. Neither is this one. It takes a while to get good and efficient at it. But I do believe in the next 5 to 10 years, and I know a lot of people working on this, hemp's going to be a huge viable source for us for, like, building materials, insulation, hempcrete, feeding animals. There's like so many different uses that it can be used, right? But we're just
Yeah.
trying to get used to uh, making systems and things so that we can produce these products for people. But
You,
it's going to be huge. Yeah, hemp has a great, and cannabis in general, history around it.
I want to interrupt this podcast today to talk to you about one of my favorite new biohacking tech products. It is called Sensate, and basically it stimulates and tones the vagus nerve. I've tried a few different ways of doing this, a few different products, and Sensate is easily my favorite one, simply because it works right away and you can actually feel the difference. So, how it works is you place it over your neck and it rests on your chest, and it connects to an app. And through that, you pick a session and certain sounds and vibrations will play. So when you're on your couch and you lean against the back, it leans against your chest and it vibrates. And this vibration is what stimulates the vagus nerve, which is really, really important for stress management, having a calm mind. Also, like the communication between the gut and the brain as well is a lot of it is done through the vagus nerve. So it's actually very, very important. And it's really cool to use something like Sensate that stimulates this when we're probably not stimulating it enough naturally throughout the day. So, if you're looking for something that is relatively new and a way to manage stress and just feel happier and calmer throughout your day, that isn't through, a supplement or, eating a certain way, but is just something that like works within minutes, Sensate is definitely, definitely for you. Trust me, I use mine every single day. I'm actually going to be making a video very soon on how I use it and post that on my social media as well. So look out for that. If you want to try Sensate, I really, really recommend it. You can go to their website, which is getsensate.com and slash biohacking Brittany, and use my discount code biohacking Brittany for a percentage off. I always ask for these discount codes for you guys because I really want you to try everything that I get to try. So definitely give it a go. And yeah, let me know what you think. That's getsensate.com slash biohacking Brittany.
Yeah, so I'm developing EMF blocking underwear for women. And
Nice.
right now I have a fabric. But when I originally was looking to source a fabric, I was actually looking for hemp. I
Mm-hmm.
was looking for a mixture of like hemp, spandex, and silver, because silver is like it blocks radiation and it's antimicrobial as well.
Oh, cool.
And it doesn't exist. And so what I actually want to do is, as like my long-term vision with this part of my company, is I actually want to create my own fabric and base it off of hemp, because like you said, it is such a sustainable resource.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much better for the environment compared to trying to use something like organic bamboo or organic cotton that might have
Yeah.
less chemicals but require so much water that it's
Yeah.
absurd and it's not
Yeah.
really environmentally friendly. So
Agreed.
I'm very much leaning towards hemp in the future in the next couple of years, and I'm hoping to see more hemp kind of products come out as well.
I agree. I'm hoping to as well. I'm hoping in the clothing and stuff there'll be more and more. And I'm excited that you're looking at hemp, and I'd be happy
Mm-hmm.
to try to connect you with people that I know as well. Just to, I want more and more people to use it, right? I feel like it's for so many different reasons, it's really good for us, and like it's good for our environment too. It's more sustainable, it's less impact overall, and it's extremely healing, right? If
Mm-hmm.
used in the right way, and I think that's the thing with any plant, with any substance, with food, with anything, it can be abused. And I see that a lot
Mm-hmm.
with cannabis, right? People abusing it, and abusing it being, I would say, there might be trading one addiction for another. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's still
Right.
an addiction, and that needs to be addressed. But I definitely, yeah, it's an amazing plant when used in the right way, and so that's part of what my goal is to help educate and get this out there as much as possible so people use more hemp, in general.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know you developed a new product recently for animals. So it's called Pet Potion.
Hmm.
And I have a puppy who is nuts sometimes. And so I've been giving it to him. And yeah, I just like, what have you seen around that? And why did you decide to also create something for pets?
Sure. Well, I think it goes down to like I mentioned earlier, as humans, we have an endocannabinoid system inside our bodies, but that's actually true with all vertebrates and animals and everything. So there's like all animals mostly have endocannabinoid system as well, right? And so it's like an evolutionary change that's been hardwired into our system forever, and that's why I feel like it's one of the most primal, important systems inside our body, right? And so that's no different from pets either. And pets see tremendous results from using hemp and cannabis. I would say for dogs and cats are animals that are getting older. It's just like in humans. We produce less cannabinoids, so we definitely, internally, so we need to supplement with them or have a higher chance of that. But yeah, any dogs that have, or any, I'm sorry, pets that have, are getting older, they're having pain, or they're seeing inflammation, or they're maybe a little anxious or nervous and just really excited, right? And they're trying to calm down. That's where I've seen wonders with CBD and hemp products with pets. So yeah, I was very passionate. My girlfriend has a 15-year-old Chihuahua about to turn 16, and she was driving out from California, and about a 14-15 hour drive, and her dog gets severe anxiety in the car, like just screams, and this is a 15-hour drive. So it was happening, and she brought the CBD and basically, just kept dosing him with it. And, after about 15 minutes or 10 minutes of him being upset, he relaxed and pretty much chilled the whole way. So it's like, it really does work amazing. I've seen with pets, just like it does on humans in the same way. And so, yeah, that's the inspiration for the product.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely so useful.
Yeah,
whether it's a puppy or an older animal who has pain, definitely so useful. So we have a discount code for everyone listening. It's Biohacking Brittany if you want to try their products. I highly recommend them. And where can people find you and connect with you? And yeah.
Sure. The website is www.thealchempist, and that's spelled TheAlchempist.com. And I'm sure we can include that in the notes or something like that as well for the site. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would say for anyone that has been thinking about cannabis or hemp, or has tried it and not seen as much results, I'd be happy. We're great at answering questions. Just reach out on our site, our chat. And we're really quick to help, and we can answer any of your questions. And really, I think, kind of help educate you, just make sure you make the right decision. Because I said earlier, hemp and cannabis is not necessarily for everybody at every point in their life, right? And so we kind of help people decipher and work with dosage recommendations, and kind of work with them on that as well, just so that they see the best results, right? And so, yeah, check us out on there, and please ask any questions, and we're happy to help.
Amazing. Yeah, I will put all of that in the show notes and on my website, so people can easily find you. And yeah, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed this discussion and learned a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany. I really appreciate you having me on. And appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, feel free to screenshot this episode and tag me if you'd like me to respond. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you have a question about your health, my DMs are always open, and I'm currently taking new clients. Thanks, and see you next time.